Hi, my name is Jessica, and I help women embody their queen's energy so that they can manifest their best lives with so much power, but doing that gracefully and in a beautiful feminine way too. Now, this video is going to be about how the parent-child dynamics affect your masculinity and femininity in your love life, i.e., your intimate relationship. Now, for context, the work that I do is based on a therapy called Family Constellation therapy, and the examples I will share later around the parent-child dynamic are constant patterns that I see in my clients' lives. So, without further ado, let's get started.
Hey, my name is Jessica, and I help women embody their queen's energy powerfully but gracefully. So the other day, let me just start with explaining that I have a voting finger. It's called post-election finger. So I spread the ink all around myself. We have to dip our finger in. So anyway, if you see this bothers me, don't let it bother you. Okay. Now, for context, the work that I do and the stuff that I'll be explaining in here is based on a therapy called Family Constellation therapy. And the examples I share again will be the principles that I share will be based on Family Constellation therapy, plus the constant patterns that I see play out in my clients' lives. Okay, let's dive deeper into. Let me explain how you experience your parents and the way you treat your parents or how you let your parents treat you can affect your love lives, your intimate relationships. So I'll give a very specific example here. Let's say you're a daughter or daughters who grew up without a father figure. Okay, so for the whole of her childhood life, she have experienced herself being a caretaker, a protector to her mother and the family, and there hasn't been healthy male figure or a male role model. Perhaps you have been, or she has been the one who bears the burden of the family, whether this is mentally, emotionally, financially, materially too. And she's the one who holds space for her parents to vent and release their pent up emotions. Now, how this will play out in this woman's life will be in a number of ways. And let's see if you can recognize yourself in this. So, one, she might be unconsciously looking for a parental figure or a father figure in her love lives. I do relate to that. I used to be like that. And so the partner, her partner might represent that more of a father figure than a lover. You might even refer to him that way, right? I know some people who actually refers to their husbands more like a father, or that they experience their husbands more like a father than a husband, which actually really isn't necessarily a good thing. Okay, it might be nice, but it's not necessarily a good thing. So the second way in which how this woman will experience the relationship is feeling burdened, right? Feeling weighted down by responsibilities, feeling like she's, taking more than her fair share of the responsibility in the relationship, feeling like she's the one taking care of everything instead of her partner. Now, this might be a perceived reality, or reality might not be that way, but she's experiencing it as such. Okay, that's why this is an issue. Okay, so it really depends. Just putting it out there. Okay, so she might feel like she's as a woman, she's carrying most of the weight in the relationship, and as a result of which she becomes very resentful. Okay, so to begin with, that's already not a healthy thing. Now, if the woman has children, okay, well, how this plays out will be, there could be this unconscious expectations of wanting the children to do the same for her as she might have done for her mother and or her parents. Okay, or what might happen then, her children might model the behavior where they take on the role of a parent and treats her like a child. This I'll say, so I don't have children, but I have a mother, right? And to begin with, this is good, a nice feeling for the mothers, but never quite healthy to begin with, because this is precisely where the parent-child dynamic gets imbalanced, which is what happened to the child and to the girl and her mother in the first place, right? So, okay, for context, I mentioned a lot of imbalanced relationships. So let me just explain that. When I say imbalanced relationships, what I do mean is both people or both parties in a relationship are not playing out their roles as they should. Okay, meaning the parent is the parent, but they become the child, and the child has become the parent. So, and the child is taking on the responsibilities of the parent, and the other way around. Now, imbalanced relationships can also manifest itself in any other forms of relationships in your life. It could be between you and your lover, okay, between you and your siblings, your friends, your co-workers, your bosses, and organizations which hire you. Now, let me give a typical scenario in a workplace where um, you experience this imbalance in dynamics. So it could be in a sense where you're overworked, you're given more responsibilities than you should. You're given more responsibilities that should have been another should belong to another employee, but it's been given to you. So that can manifest itself as that. Or another way of how this relationships imbalance can occur is when an organization where there's the founder and the owner and the manager, maybe this is just a small unit. What happens is when the manager takes on the responsibilities of the founder or the owner, which usually just tends to cause imbalance to the overall work dynamic and the workflow, which never works out, excuse me. So typically what then occurs in these situations are feelings of resentment, right? Feelings of being overburdened, very similar to the example that I given you earlier. And how this will play out is either one of these parties, one of these people, whoever involved, will leave the relationship, or they try to balance out the relationship by by demanding for what they want. So you see this as conflicts in the workplace, because people start being unhappy and then they try to balance their relationship by either demanding for what they want or just play it out by whatever way that they play out, by like refusing to do the work, by requesting for more less workload. Yeah, that's the word. Okay, I'm sure for those of you who are employed in workplace or in companies would have an idea of what that looks like. Let me give another example of a specific example where this woman might have grown up in a family where anger, yelling, not unuseful criticism, threading on eggshells is a constant. Okay, so how this might play out in relationships, intimate or otherwise, might be in this few instances. One, struggling with expressing yourself, struggling to speak up for what you want or need. Okay, this woman would rather let things slide by than expressing herself, because that's much easier. I relate. I used to be like that, and a lot of my clients are the same. In an argument, we tend to freeze because we're actually afraid of the anger and how explosive things can get. Okay, do you relate to this one? Really curious. Now, the second way in how this can play out is a feeling of being unseen, a feeling of being unheard, feeling unimportant, not feeling good enough. The third way of this playing out, a need to please and placate, like please your partner. And there's this thing called fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. So this is fawning, like trying to soothe things out rather than expressing for what you need. Okay. And the fourth one is arguments blowing out of proportion. I'm sure we have all experienced this, where by the time we actually express ourselves, we are already like boiling volcanoes, because we've been, it's been waiting for a long time to erupt. Okay, so I literally needed to refilm this segment because I missed a number of things, and this is such an important part of it. So, how does everything that I've explained play out into the masculinity and femininity in the relationship? Okay, so for starters, let's explain what both healthy masculinity and femininity and toxic masculinity and femininity means in this context. So, by masculine energy, I do mean that this energy is more driven, purpose oriented, structured, focused, assertive, direct. Okay. And the other healthy ways in which this healthy masculinity can express itself is being in truth, being in honesty, being honest, sorry, firm, strong, powerful, in their own knowing of who he or she is. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned this before. Now, there are polarities in a relationship. So, in a man, both men and women, you can have the polarity of both masculine uh, and feminine as well. So, let's just put it out there. Okay, what would then a toxic or wounded masculinity represent? Okay, um, anger, maybe uncontrollable anger, aggression, controlling, overly dominant, overly driven to achieve without a sense of balance. Okay, rough, unthoughtful, inconsiderate of the needs and emotions of others. Okay, so that's the healthy masculinity, healthy masculine energy, and a toxic one. So let's move into what does then the feminine energy represents? Softness, gentleness, nurturing, soothing, vulnerable, sensual, creative, in tune with her emotions, empathetic, compassionate, trusting, loving. Okay. Now, then, on the other hand, a wounded femininity, sorry, would then manifest in a sense of a lack of direction, confusion, hurt, insecure, wounded ego, usually that little small me thing going, okay, overly emotional, easily triggered, okay, or what people call sensitive, overly sensitive, fearful and scared. Okay, I think that's that. All right, so let's move back into the example of a woman who experiences being more of the caretaker and the protector to her parents. Now, the consequences of such is she experiences herself carrying the weight of her intimate relationship. So she might find herself to be the one holding space more than her partner does, being a space for her partner to vent, being the structure and support for both herself and her lover. Okay, more so she experiences herself doing this more than her partner. Again, this might be perceived. Okay, this is in her reality. That's what she's experiencing. It might not be the ultimate truth of what is happening, but because of her background, that's what she's experiencing. Now, having said that, holding space and being the support for your partner if he needs it, or if she needs it, is not necessarily a bad thing until it becomes too much. Okay, anything in excess is never a good thing. So in this sense, she will then be taking up more of the masculine role rather than being able to relax into her soft femininity, which is what she really actually wants, right? To be able to relax into the strong arms of her man. And the problem is perhaps these types of women, or usually these types of women, do tend to attract more feminine men because of the polarity, instead of the strong, healthy, masculine man that she secretly craves. So if if now that I've explained the whole thing, you can begin to put the pieces together how the issues that she experienced as a child, how that's beginning to affect her and her choices in men, and even how she experiences the relationship. Okay, so if you or one is too accustomed or just too used to, holding a masculine role for the family you grew up in, for protection reasons. Maybe you grew up without a father figure. Again, you don't have anybody else to protect you, and you have needed to constantly fend for yourself, right? So your femininity might have been wounded, yes, as you might not have had the chance to express that healthily, which then typically how this plays out is then you will find, or one would find, ways to compensate for in your intimate relationships or relationships with your future children or even with other people in your life. Okay. And again, by compensating, here there are a couple of ways this might play out. The first way, you might find yourself displaying codependency, wounded feminine behavior, such as being the child or the little girl or little boy in a relationship. Another term they give to this is being excessively needy or attached due to underlying insecurities, okay, and a desire for protection and validation. You might be, or one might be expecting your partner to give in ways that are beyond their responsibility, okay, such as your own emotional health and happiness and your personal trigger. So now I'm not saying as partners you don't care for each other, okay, but ultimately there are responsibilities each partner carries to balance the weight of the relationship. Okay, the balance of the relationship might be affected again when either partners expect too much of the other half to give them what they might emotionally be lacking or yearn from their parents from their early years. Okay, and this all happens obviously very unconsciously. And now that we're talking about this, maybe then you can see how you might be playing this out in your own lives, or you might, maybe your partner or your friends. Okay, so another way this can play out is adopting a more toxic, masculine, bad boy behavior. The I don't care and I don't need your energy. The kind where it is an energy of withdrawal, like moving away from your partner. Okay, the I want to be alone kind of energy rather than being overly attached. I think there's another term for that. I can't remember what that was. But basically, it's a withdrawal energy rather than being, yeah, I can't remember. So, but you see what what is this? So this is the type of instance where distance and space is a lot easier for the person to handle, partly as a protective boundary for themselves, where there might be an underlying fear of coming too close to their partners and losing their connection to them later, which is similar to the painful connection that they had and lost with their parents during their early years, only that they might not have remembered that this is what happened. Now, the separation with a parent or with the mother specifically, according to family constellation therapy, can happen in I believe it's after birth. It could happen right after birth. It could even be due to a trauma that happened during birth, a difficult childbirth. So the separation from the mother, especially during from that time to 1 to 3 years of their lives, I think even more, has an effect to how your attachment styles are. That's it, the attachment styles. Okay, so now let's take the other example of growing up in a family where your voice is not expressed, or you might have overbearing toxic parents. I think a lot of us would resonate with this. Now, the consequences of this are twofold. Okay, the children might take on the behavior. So this is the first instance. The children might take on the behavior of their overbearing parents. This is even in the case when they do not like the behavior of their parents to begin with. I've seen this played out in men big time. This will then be reflected in wounded masculinity, overtly display of aggression and anger. Okay, or wounded femininity, which is the expression of wounded ego, the hurt small little me. So this So this can really go either ways. You are either overly expressing, or the person's either overly expressing their anger and and having a good time with that, or not expressing their voice at all. The wounded femininity could get to the point where these women, in particular the people that I've worked with, because we do not want to be like our parents, we actually even reject our own voice because we don't want to be like our parents. We sacrifice our own voice so we can't speak up for ourselves and have boundaries. Okay, so again, for the most part, the women I've worked with display more of these wounded feminine traits, where the common symptom or the common feature is freezing, flighting instead of fighting. These women, they freeze more often than they fight. And in intense situations, they usually wouldn't really know what to do. You go on a mind blank. Very often you feel small, good, not good enough, frightened, confused, disoriented, anxious, right? So these are the common stuff that happens. And also, again, as I mentioned earlier, in this wounded femininity, boundary issues then become a major problem. Okay, not just in your intimate life, but in other relationships in their life too. So let's move into the solution, okay? The solution to all of this, really, for me, I call it the parent-child dynamic healing. I have repeated this so many freaking times, but this bears repeating itself. No one I've worked with has been able to run away from this. I would even say that a parent-child healing can include foster or adoptive parents, where you might have to reestablish or balance the boundaries um, in the relationship. But mostly, a lot of the healing is done with biological and blood parents. The simple reason is this: you take a tree and you cut off its roots. Will it live? Really, will it live? And the answer is no, right? Yet most of us, we forget that we have roots too. Even though we might not necessarily like where we come from, that's unfortunately the place to start looking at to heal. Now, the parent-child healing then often branches out to our inner child healing, what we all know as inner child, what I call as the inner warrior cultivation. Cultivating your inner warrior for women, it would be healing our femininity, is, well, the only way, really the only way where we are able to begin to learn to exercise the voice and stand up for ourselves, which is then, moving into our external warrior. And doing so will really make this whole process a lot more easier than a struggle, really. Now, benefits, the benefits are tremendous. Imagine you being able to ask for what you want, a pay rise, that increase in your charges to your clients without that shame. All right, asking for a better work schedule so you don't feel overloaded with work without guilt, asking for that without guilt, right? Or just asking your partner to take up his fair share of responsibilities at home so you don't go mental, right? Being able to ask for what you need. Okay, and what else? Huge. I mean, my clients have seen an increase in mental health, confidence, self-assurance. Your relationship with your parents will improve. Your relationships with your spouse too. Now, this is the caveat that I will have here, and which is what I say to my clients too. When you do this work, you have to be ready for the people who are not going to honor your boundaries, who are not going to be used to honoring your boundaries or allowing you to express your voice, to fall away from your life. Because as you do this work, you will become so freaking strong, so in your power, so queen, right? So like, I'm really embodying confidence and self-assurance that only the people who will honor that and accept that and really love you for that will stay. And the rest who do not accept that and who will not honor you for who you really are will fall away. So That's one benefit. I call it a benefit because we don't want people who are not good for us anyway, right? And apart from that, the benefits are it really trickles into other areas of your life, money, abundance, opportunities, because really also because of the fact that you shine more and you're owning your voice so that and you're also more prepared to ask for what you want or what you deserve. Okay. And if you have anxiety or stress triggers, all of that will fall away. And also you might uncover some very interesting things to do with your parents too. Okay. Now, if you're listening to this far, listening till this point, and if you're interested in exploring this further, here is the offer and the invitation to work with me one-on-one. I have a 6 weeks one-on-one coaching, which is specifically geared to diving in deep into this parent-child dynamics. This will be 1.5 to 2 hours a week, and the minimum time to sorting out these layers of issues will be 6 weeks minimum. Usually clients see a shift in themselves by then. So the additional 4 weeks will be more for coaching and future visioning, provided that the client is ready for that. Okay. Now, how my sessions typically look like is like this. You show up for your sessions with a notebook and a pen, just in case you need to take notes. I get my clients to do that. And how this works is where we will begin a chat, we have a conversation, and I will begin directing you inwards, and I will facilitate the much needed conversations that you need to have that will actually help you unravel these deeper layers to your issues. Now, what makes my work different is this. There are specific protocols relating to the parent and child dynamic. And specific healing statements that are required to balance the relationship and the dynamic between you and the parent that we're working on. And these protocols are essential. Okay, these are again following the protocols and principles of family constellation therapy, and it works. Okay, and these statements are again specific to this particular parent that you're working on and very unique to your situation. There will be, statements that are general, but the reason why one-on-one sessions are unique and different is because we will work directly on the things that you need to say and you need to sort of heal through, uh, specifically for your situation. Basically, it will be very unique to your specific problem that you're experiencing with your parent. Now, what else do you get apart from this 1.5 to 2 hours session? I had a client ask me actually before she became a client, and the answer I had for her then, and still is the answer for you now, is that a lot more work. Typically, clients get homework, and it really depends on where you're at with the issues that you're experiencing and if you have had exposure to this work. Usually the work that you take home, there will be work to take home, and the healing stuff that you are required to do after these sessions are actually equally as important as the work that you do with me in the sessions. The stuff that I do is very, very experiential. So you really need to experience it and do it to feel the effects of that. Okay, so I think that's it for now. This is the end of this video. I do hope that this information has helped you. Let me know, right? If you need to reach out to me, look up for me on Facebook, Jessica Nia, or if you like, you can also send me an email. So, and you know what? I'll just link the email on this video because I can't remember that. But you can look me up on Facebook as well to send me a DM if you have any questions. So I'll leave this for now. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video serves you. Bye for now.